Welcome to the Oviedo City Council CRA Governing Board meeting. It is Monday, February 6, 2017. It's approximately 5:30 p.m. This time I will turn it over to John, and you can do the introductions, and then we'll do the approval of the minutes and choosing a chairperson.
Very good. I'd like to welcome new CRA Board governing members. Resource Local. Don.
Great. All righty, we need a motion to do so. I'd like to entertain one.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? No. Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor of the motion to adopt the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Third item is selection of a chairman for this board. We'll take nominations and volunteers.
Mr. Mayor? I'd like to nominate you for the chair.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Oh, nominate Dave Axel.
Okay. Any other? Hearing none, we'll call them in the order. All in favor of me, say aye.
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 2, 3.
You get a vote.
You get a vote.
Really?
To choose a chairman?
Can there be any discussion about it? Because there's a reason why I have suggested somebody who's not on the council to be the chairman.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, well, as we become a grown-up CRA, it seems sensible to start phasing council out of being the governing body and start phasing in other people to be the governing body. So if we have somebody who's not on council as the chairman, and either one of you guys, whoever wants to volunteer, that would be sort of a step in that direction, and then we could start phasing ourselves out over time as we find qualified people who are able and willing to step up. But that's like a whole other policy thing that probably like a couple years down the road.
Well, we have to spend the people's money, so I'm not going there. We got to be accountable for that. So,
John, what do the bylaws say? Is it just... All right, well,
It has to be city council at all times?
That's who gets to vote.
Oh, who gets to vote? Okay.
All right, so now we're back down to 2 votes. For me, Council, what do you think on Dave?
I'm in favor of him.
One?
Oh. Can I
There we
change
go.
it to voting for Tim Slattery then? Or would you also decline?
I'm the incoming chair for the airport.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of you
I guess
being
by default. All righty, we have a chairman. You okay with that, Bob?
I am.
You haven't said anything yet. You do have to say something. You do realize that by Robert's rules, that no vote is an affirmative, right?
It is.
Okay, just making sure. All righty, moving along. Since we now have a chairman, we're going to go to item number 4, review of the Oviedo Trail Loop construction cost
Mr. Mayor,
estimates.
do we need a vice chairman, too?
Oh, do we? You don't have that here, John. Look at that. Who would like to serve as vice chairman? I'll nominate Steve. We'll go
Second.
mayor deputy. We have a motion second. Any other nominations? Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. There we go. All right, moving along now, review of the Oviedo Trail Loop construction cost estimates. Go ahead, John, turn it over to you.
The November 7th, 2006, we presented now for the on-street trail and also the off-street trail. It was just as possible. Have to have. The agenda item presents those trail costs for the second and also for the
All righty, John, anything else?
Due to the high cost of the construction of the loop trail, what I, for now, CRA Governing Board has to add allocation funds. Budget. Evaluate our alternate route there. I follow.
Thank you, John. That's the motion you need? All righty, I'd like to entertain that motion for discussion. Do I have a,
So moved.
Second.
okay, we have motion second. Who motioned it? David, you've got the floor.
I expected those costs to be pretty high. I think this is something high for the moment. The question is, how much effort do we add? Certainly, I think with construction of Broadway, we should look. The thing to throw out is at some point in time, hope to see Central widen north to Broadway, and that
And you said.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we have other needs in the, Oviedo on the park. The next item we're going to talk about, $3.6 million. I like the idea of using what we have up Oviedo Boulevard, up 434, to build a boardwalk over that wetland and spend all that money when we need parking and other things. And, not saying that get rid of it, but put it down the road. That's my thought. But I would agree, John, would you?
Councilman Britton, anything? Good. Tim?
Good.
Megan?
Which is a basic question.
This
Would
is
it-
much more casual here.
Yeah, this is way nice. Does it change the cost much, do you think, if we were to narrow these things? So I guess the idea is to have a loping sidewalk, and 10 feet seems like the right feel, but then that seems like it would create the need for additional retention and more impact on the wetlands and stuff like that. So how does... What's the where did the standard come from? Do we just think that seems good? Okay. All right.
Bob, anything?
I kind of don't want to give this up right now. The upland area, I don't really care much about, but the wetland area, the boardwalk, I think would be a great addition to Oviedo on the Park, and it would tie in the historic downtown with Oviedo on the Park. I think the direction should be to try to look for some sort of grants that could help us with this $1.6 million.
3 point.
Well, no. I'm just looking at the wetland area.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You forget about the upland area, but I think that wetland area would be a great addition to Oviedo on the Park, as well as the future additions to the historic area.
You said the magic word, historic area.
Historic downtown.
Okay. Well, if we move in the direction of actually having a real historic district, that opens up the floodgates for grants. We don't currently have one, and I don't know if this is an appropriate venue to discuss the possibility of getting one involved in the CRA, or we could go off on a tangent easily here. You said the magic word, grants and history together.
Shame on you, Bob.
And my question is how much funds are we talking about to go back here? What's the dollar amount that we're talking about in this recommendation?
The dollar amount?
That's it?
Yes.
And John, what do you think the timeline is for you to just evaluate other options, and if there is a cost. What do you think the cost is? Right, so you're looking at, your recommendation would be, instead of concentrating on the wetland portion, let's concentrate on the historic area, and then using the existing sidewalk system that we have as a trail up to that. And then just ensuring that the trail is interconnected properly through the historic downtown. No, I mean, just me personally, I'd have no issue with them trying to coordinate it with what the Evans are trying to do currently, and the city is doing with the ponds. And I like the idea of that trail through the middle, but I understand. I think that for us to commit all that money to it might be putting the cart ahead of the horse, when maybe grant opportunities will present themselves in the future. We have built boardwalks with grant money before, haven't we, Brian? I mean, Sweetwater Park, Round Lake Park.
I don't know if they were built with grants or not, Mayor. They were
Okay.
built before my time, so.
Could you find out?
Sure.
So it sounds like the general consensus has been that we're going to put this on hold, going through the wetlands. It sounds like the general consensus is you can return the dollars back into the park. Let me just see if there's general consensus for you to coordinate with what's going on in the historic downtown and work towards the loop. Councilman Britton, how do you feel about that?
For now, that's okay, yeah.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I would just say definitely don't give up on the boardwalk, but I think you hit it right on the head. It's so much money, and I think you just got to hit the priorities first. I think it definitely has got to stay in the plan, because that would be pretty nice. But there's some things when we have events out there now. People aren't going to be too happy when they have no place to park, and they see a $1.6 million boardwalk. And it's definitely a good project. But
They can park on the boardwalk.
Yeah, there you go. But don't get rid of it. But just put it a little lower. I would say on the priority list. But
Okay.
my thought anyway.
Bob, what are you thinking?
I feel the same way. Don't lose sight of the boardwalk. but-
Don't kill it.
Yeah, don't
Don't
kill it.
kill it.
Megan? Good?
Agreed. Yep.
David? Good? Tim? All right, got your consensus. Do you want, that was a motion, so I guess I should call the question, correct? Or is consensus good? What do you want? All righty. Since we have consensus already, the motion was to delay the implementation of the wetland boardwalk, return the funds to the CRA, and direct the CR director to look at coordinating the trails between the historic downtown and the new downtown using other avenues, and to not lose sight of this, don't bury it. That about sum up your motion? Yes, sir. All righty. All those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All righty, John, item number 5, parking structure demand findings.
Request of the CRA Board
John, do you have any presentation on the study, or? All right, can you just reiterate your ask of us one last time?
I can give you
Why don't you do that, and then just clarify what you're asking us to do for you. Well, look who it is. How are you, Chris?
The actions needed. CRA Governing Board to direct that. Developer to identify a build-out schedule. Also develop cost schedule and funding consideration. Budget. And how we go.
Thank you, John. Who'd like to open up discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion before we discuss, or?
I'm not sure, John. You looking for consensus on this? I don't know if this is a motionable item, is it? Or do you want?
I'd like for you all to discuss it among yourselves and then
Formulate the motion? Okay. Okay. You got the floor if you want it.
Okay, sure. In looking at this study, I see a lot of maybes and ifs and possiblies and assumptions. And I'm certainly not against centralized parking when the need is there, but we're conjecturing this need is my concern, and looking at a substantial expenditure and moving in that direction. And I'm just real concerned with that. We've got, 10 acres, Mr. Kavanaugh, left to develop in there? So we don't know the form or type of that development. We don't know the scope of these events we're talking about. It just seems extremely early to be talking about structured parking right now and talking to other governments. That's just my thoughts, but just for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Anybody else? No one's going to take a stab at this?
Well, Dave kind of says it in a different way, but it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say there's a demand there and build it, I guess there might be demand to use it, but maybe a little early yet.
Good.
It almost seems like if we are going around saying we're trying to build boardwalks and make it a pedestrian and bike-friendly place, that putting a giant parking garage there that's not for the people who live near us. We can all bike to this place. So if we're trying to attract people from other towns to come to Oviedo, I guess it's just kind of the goal of, what is the goal of Oviedo on the Park? Is it for the people who live here already, or are we trying to attract people to come here and frequent our restaurants? And it really, the garage may be necessary if we're trying to get other people to come here, but how many other people are we trying to get to come?
Well, I mean, this isn't a place that is close to everybody. It's not close, to bike from Live Oak or Sanctuary, per se. So we do need additional parking. I just don't know if talking about it right now is the best time. I think that, maybe once we build out some of the space for retail and restaurant, that we could, then we could talk about it to see what the traffic, the amount of people that are actually coming here, and see what the need is then. But right now, I don't know if the need's there.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to respectfully disagree with some of the comments I've heard, because I honestly think that in order to bring the restaurants and the retails and the things we want, the first thing people are going to ask is where we're going to park these people, right? That's number one. I mean, we see out there when we have an event, whether it be an American Idol concert or whatever's out there, it gets pretty crazy, even with the 250 spot lot we have. Look, guys, we want this finished, and I was going to bring it up in the other event. You got to have places to park people. Most people are not going to ride their bike into Oviedo on the Park, and that's not to say riding a bike is not good. I mean, I would ride mine in there, but people want to go out on a Friday night. They want to say, I want to go to that restaurant, and I want to park right there, because I'm not going to park a quarter of a mile. So to me, this is probably one of the most, if not the most important thing that the CRA should be a part of financing, in my opinion. And we're all waiting for the restaurants, and I know that developers get asked the questions, well, I'm going to put this big restaurant up there, and it's going to get... All right, I'll give you an example. Just go look at Ale House on a Friday and Saturday night. See how many people are parking there? That would be our parking lot there. And then where they're going to park up and down Oviedo Boulevard and walk down there? It's not going to happen. So we need some structure in there, and the sooner the better, and then it'll get done and people will come. I think people are not coming now. I said, when are we going to park all these people and make this big restaurant? And you're going to have, 4 big ones in there, events going on. So I just take a little different avenue. I think it's time to figure out where it's going to go, how big it's going to be, how we're going to share in paying for it. But I think, the success of Oviedo on the Park, when it gets all the niceties that we want, restaurants and things like that, there's got to be close parking, It's my thought.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree with most of what I heard, other than my colleague Steve. I think you're all missing the big picture here. When you say it's too early, it's not too early. The land is there now. Now's the time. It's always been envisioned that Oviedo on the Park would have parking structures, and it was always envisioned that there would be some participation from the CRA. Now, I, for one, just speaking for myself, I don't think the CRA should be paying anywhere near $5.5 million for the parking structure. That's not our responsibility. There has to be developer contribution. I mean, if we were in this thing for a third or something, well, then we have a conversation, but we don't know that yet. John, please reiterate, this is going to be all public parking in this garage, correct? Not apartment parking.
And not free? Or have we even crossed that?
It's going to be free parking, correct? Yeah, well, that's a discussion for another day. I don't know if I want to do paid parking personally, but that's not the discussion today. But this is public parking. This is not parking for any apartments that are being built out there.
But
Well,
it's
well-
parking for the restaurants and retail, so in a way, it's parking for a development that somebody else is making profit off of, but then we would cover, or participating.
Well,
the cost
we've been
of it.
participating in this thing since day one. That was the
Yeah.
whole entire,
It's the proportion of who's paying for it.
right, the proportion we have to discuss. I'm just saying, the whole thing is a public-private partnership. It has been since Broad Street. I mean, it's, but, you know, I hear it all the time, and not from Mr. Kavanaugh, even though I hear it from him too. You know, if these places don't have a place to park, they're not ever going to come. If we don't have a place to park for our events, it's hard enough to have the events. Right now, we're having smaller events. I mean, the number one complaint about Great Day in the Country was where was I going to park? If we want to attract Taste of Oviedo, barbecue blowout, that's the Chamber's number one thing. You know, where are they going to park? This is what this CRA was always intended to do. And if you look back at that Broad Street plan, they had 3 parking garages in there they wanted us to participate in some form or fashion. But, yeah, I would caution everybody about just closing the door on this. I would let them go do some more due diligence, get us this information that we need. We need to know what's expected of us, what's expected of the developer, because in all fairness, the developer is going to monotonize the fact that there's parking as well. So, and the city has been more than generous in the public portion of this project. So I would anticipate the developer being more than generous in their contribution to this garage. That being said, it could happen, and I think it needs to happen. I truly do. I think if that structure was there, I think if they're able to market it with 500-600 spots, walk to the restaurants, people would go to it. And Megan, I do understand that, you know, some folks like to ride their bikes around town, but, you know, Bob and Steve hit the nail on the head. Most of our residents aren't. They're going to drive their car down Mitchell Hammock, they're going to pull into Restaurant Row, they're going to find a spot either on the street, on Oviedo Boulevard, in the garage, and they'll go to a restaurant. They'll go walk around the park. They'll do everything that they're doing now with just our lot, without any restaurants there. So it's just going to exponentially keep growing. So I would hate to see us throw the baby out with the bathwater here on principle, and we don't even know what the principle is that we're discussing.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm concerned with here, we've got a CRA with a fairly large geographic area.
Mhm.
We've got other vacant or capable of being redeveloped land. And when I read this report, I see this suggestion, if somebody builds restaurants and if we have these certain events. Well, I work in the commercial real estate business, and I know parking's important. When you construct a project, it behooves you to ensure there's enough parking. Not necessarily asking the public or some public body to pay for it. So when the historic downtown gets redeveloped, are they going to come to the CRA and say, build me a parking garage? If we add to the CRA boundary the spray fields or the Albertson site, are they going to ask us to pay for a parking garage? I'm just concerned that we're going too far down the road of public expense without public revenue.
Okay, here's a point to ponder. The surface parking that's over there right now on the plan would probably suffice, but it gives you no overflow. It gives you no event parking. It gives you no extra comfort level of parking. That's what this satisfies. That's the public purpose of this. They could build it. I mean, heck, the corner of 434 and Mitchell Hammock, the parking plan we saw for that's going to park just that barely. I mean, is that what we want for Oviedo on the park? No, it isn't, at least in my mind. This has been a part of the plan since day one. Don't be short-sighted. I mean, let them at least get us numbers so we can sit here and say, okay, now we're looking at numbers.
Well, even the
Anyway, I
plans-
don't think Tim has said anything yet. He's down there pondering.
I'm learning.
Are you ready to jump in yet, or should I let Steve go first?
No, we're a young CRA with no money, basically. And
Nothing yet.
we won't have any funds to help this direction for years. And so I, too, think it's a little early to be talking about committing millions of dollars that we don't even have yet. Let's let the area season a little more, then discuss how we can spend money for future years. That's what I feel.
Well, this is one of those tough ones. We're gonna have a very split decision here because, this is how I look at it. Those voters voted for that park, and I realize the CRA encompasses a broader area other than Oviedo on the park, but
It'll be $40 million or $30 million, and we're talking, even if it's a third of this, we're talking 1.5 or 2.
right, when it's all done. But I'm just saying, the prize and the funding for the rest of the CRA, the bulk of it is going to come from Oviedo on the park. So if Oviedo on the park doesn't do well, the tax increment from some of the residential stuff, that's not where it's all going to come from in my mind. But, these people voted for it. When you sit up here and you get these emails all the time, when's my park going to be done? When am I getting these restaurants? And when are you...
And where can I park?
Yeah, and where you're going to park, and we've seen it like with Great Day, they're shuttling people in, that lot filled up good. I'm afraid that if we don't make it a priority and at least take a look at it, the restaurants and the things that everybody wants there's a reason they're not there yet, because they have problems, and parking is one of them. So I don't disagree with what I hear from some of my colleagues. I mean, I know where you're coming from, but I think that if we put this on the back burner, it only makes the developer's job a lot more difficult to bring us what everybody wants there is some of the fun stuff, But I think parking in the core of Oviedo on the park really has got to be at the forefront. But listen, this is why we have 7 of us. We're going to vote, and we'll just, whatever the direction is, we'll make it work, however. But that's just the way I see it.
But we're not voting to commit anything tonight, just voting to get numbers.
Right.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. There's been all this discussion of a garage. The city has a surface lot. Presumably, it makes sense in the future, if there's the demand, to build parking decks over the surface lot or redevelop the surface lot into a parking garage. There's opportunities, in my mind, in the future. There's more maturity of Oviedo on the park for the city to, like other localities have done, Altamont and some others, say, hey, who's going to bring us a bid for this front couple of acres of this land, build us a parking garage? We have all kinds of opportunities in the future, so we're not, if we say let's not go have this discussion now, we're not precluding parking garages in the future. I'm just fearful of apparently suggesting we're going to commit funds to something that doesn't necessarily generate revenue.
John, are you asking us to commit any funds this evening? No. What are you asking us, John?
Are you talking...
Why are we even voting? Why can't they just go do that anyway?
Well, I guess they could, but I guess John wants to make sure that's the direction.
If it's a long-term direction, I think the discussion here is whether we want to do accelerate this process or not, is what I'm seeing. Why not let him go do that as part of the day-to-day business of the CRA?
Yeah, I'm okay with going and getting numbers. That's fine.
And we're going to need them sooner or later, but I think the discussion here has been whether we want to build this park before we build out even, or after, how long after we build out?
We don't know yet.
Are you asking the property appraiser to forecast what the total CRA, what the TIF will, like how much money we're going to get as this develops? Or are you asking them about that specific parcel? Because I'm envisioning a parking garage someday where the flat parking is right now. and my understanding from talking to Mr. Cobb is we put enough dirt under there that it's stable enough that we can build there without having to go backwards and redo
The
stuff.
only problem with that is that that would be good for event parking, but I don't know if that helps the retail.
So where are we even talking about putting parking then?
I think it's too early to
Yeah,
even
okay,
have that
'cause
discussion.
Actually, I think Mr. Kavanaugh has a piece of land he was going to donate for the public parking up front, right behind Restaurant Road. Come on up,
Where
Rob.
is it?
That in
I'm
the
dying to
report?
know where this is and how much you'd be willing to kick in for, because if it's a really good deal for the city,
Well, that's what they want to go find out. Everybody's saying no.
Mayor is absolutely correct. We're not asking for any type of financial commitment at all tonight. And we're willing to some, and I emphasize some of the upfront, take this from the 20 ball analogy for football. It's fresh on everybody's mind. Last night's game.
Right there.
So let me address Tim's, even if this was to move forward, whatever the monetary commitment wouldn't be an up. Kind of the initial thought is funding it over, I don't know if it's 3 years, 5 years, to coincide the revenue coming in, expense side of the equation. We single-handedly, and I shouldn't say single-handedly, are funding the upcharge on CRA right now. I think you're going to see this grow rather robustly when Park Place gets a full evaluation. They're close. The new residential comes on board. Some of the retail that we're talking about bringing. So the timing of the revenue coming in with the expenses on an annual, discuss that at the next level. I think what we're asking for here is to take it to the financial side. As Dave said, there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot. And the reason we need to bring it to you now is that we're right in the middle rows of planning what is going to be on the remaining. And if I head one direction, and there's no parking garage, and then all of a sudden, a year from now, we're all scratching our heads going, oh, it would have been nice to have a parking garage. There's no turning back. Once the construction process starts, and whomever has construction knowledge on the route, that the placement of the parking structure is critical, because there's going to be setback issues, fire issues, there's going to be building issues. Really need to take this into consideration now. You have a parcel of land that currently has surface parking on it that could go to a parking structure. We actually, years ago, when we started laying this out, we laid it out perfectly for a parking, just in case a parking structure was warranted. The mayor is absolutely correct. From day one, when I got involved in this project back 5-6 years ago, it's always envisioned somehow a parking structure. The overflow parking, which is currently, I think, in the future, is an excellent option for a parking garage. If the one that we build or proposing to build now is extremely successful and we warrant additional parking, that's just a next step, is to go right next door, build another parking structure, because what that means is Oviedo in the Park is wildly successful. The park, the amphitheater, all the events that we've talked about for 2 or 3 years have all come to fruition, and they are extremely successful. And that's a good option to have. But having the parking structure now, it's kind of, build it now and they will come. Councilwoman Sladik made a thing, ride your bike. That's great. Some people will absolutely ride their bike, but most people won't. Most people come to the park, they got kids in tow, they got blankets in tow, they got food in tow, and they've got a bunch of things. They're not riding their bike to the park. The family or the exercise nut that's living down the street that wants to ride up there to get a smoothie at one of the retail places. Yeah, they may ride their bike, but the vast majority of the people are not riding their bikes. They're coming to Oviedo on the Park for a reason. It could be the outstanding retail, it could be the outstanding restaurants, it could be the outstanding social agenda that the city's going to have. One thing to think about, one thing that I'd like to see, and we've talked about, is a car shop. Well, what we don't realize, and really is what is not in the study, that common sense is going to dictate, when we shut down all these streets, it's a double whammy. Not only are we taking up parking spaces by car carriers, by antique cars, by vendors, we're also taking away the parking. So if we're closing down City Walk Lane for an event, whether it's a dinner party, whether it's a car show, whatever, all that parking that's now been allocated to the retail doesn't exist anymore. It has to be replaced someplace else. I can't go replace that because we just don't have enough land. And Dave can attest to this. He's in Beckham. When you start courting a retail guy, entity, or whomever, this process starts starting now. We need to know. It's either we're going to have a lot of restaurants or no restaurants. We're really going to have a lot of parties or we're not going to have a lot of parties. We're either going to have a lot of car shows, we're not going to have a lot of car shows. We're either going to have a lot of events at the amphitheater or we're not. Simple. But we have to plan for it. What is the long-term goal of Oviedo on the Park and the CRA? I always think of the CRA as getting a return on my investment. What better return is there to build a parking structure, have everybody come to it, watch the property values skyrocket, and you collect additional revenue many, many, many years down the road. And this will be born out of the financial side of the equation, too, because we're trying to create a revenue stream that exists for many years after the paid. But what we're building out there and the vision that we're trying to accomplish is going to last many years after that. So the point I'm trying to make is it has to be addressed now. Decisions got to be made whether parking structure is going to get there. And then we got to head in that direction. Because 2 years from now, it's not going to be financially feasible. It's not going to be physically feasible, meaning that I just can't go erect in a parking structure as buildings on all four sides. It's physically impossible to do. And, I'll reiterate the thing of the city lot. That's a great idea. And I hope that I'm sitting here 5 years from now and you guys are discussing a second parking structure. Because what that means, we're all successful. CRA has money, property values are going up, development is happening, we're funding the CRA.
So if we've got a $7.5 million parking garage, how much would you propose to cover?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but this is going to have to be a three-way slice of the pie. Developer, CRA, county.
What's the county's interest in this?
Well, we're
Giving up
having
the
some
TIF?
discussions right now with the county as it relates to contributing some dollars towards it. Premature to talk about it. Okay? I think the $5 to $7 million is on the high side. I think when this is all said and done, we have to look at massing. We have to look at how big this parking structure is going to be. My gut feeling tells me that this is closer to $450 than it is $600. My gut feeling tells me that this is closer to $5 million parking structure, $7 million parking structure. That's kind of what the next level is draw it up. Here's where it goes. Here's how many parking spots we have. Here's how much it's going to cost to construct them. Here's the net gain, meaning that we think we can generate additional revenue, additional dollars by building this. And we're going to look at a radius around Oviedo on the Park, and we're going to certainly look at Oviedo on the Park and say, okay, guys, the net effect of this over 5 years or 10 years is we're making $6 million. And this parking structure is going to cost us $1.5 million. Well, the return on the investment is good. I don't have all those questions right now. I think that's what John is asking for is to go to the next level. But guys, I'm not excited about going to the next level if you're not excited about it. Nobody wants to waste your time, waste my money, waste my staff's time Chris's time, going to the next level, unless this just isn't a vision.
Chris doesn't mind, she bills you anyway.
That she does. But you get the point. You've got to find purpose in this. You've got to be able to justify this and rationale something you want to do long term. Sorry, you stretching or you hit it there?
No, I just said, we got to call the question.
Okay.
Yeah, we got-
So I'm here to answer any and all questions. I'll do my best to answer them exact. But this, as Dave said, some of this is just, it's fluid. It's moving a little bit right now.
What is the question?
The question just is, like,
Give you a,
Like you just said.
give you a thumbs up that, this process can go forward, or is there something where, are we going to...
Well, guys, the bottom line is, if you don't want to see a parking structure, then vote no. If you want to take it to the next level and realize the vision, something good for, hopefully for the city and attract all of the social aspects of things out there and truly make it successful, then let's take it to the next level and let's try to figure out the financial side of this equation. Because we could all sit here and say, yeah, I'd like a parking structure, but if the economics don't work, we're all wasting each other's time.
all righty. So, John, the question then, the only consensus you need from us is just to continue on with your due diligence. No commitment, just due diligence, correct?
Mr. Chairman, sorry to belabor this stuff, but something I was going to bring up later, and I think it's important to reference it now. Part of what Mr. Jones is asking us to do is authorize, under our stead, discussions between himself, a private developer, and the county, asking them for money. So what I was going to bring up later that I think we need to explore is the patent unfairness of Oviedo being at a 50% increment while other localities are at a higher increment. We need to have some credibility if we're going to go have this argument with the county. So showing up now and asking them to fund or partly fund a parking garage to get their share of some $7 million expense when we're looking at potentially doubling a $30 million cash flow to $60 million, I think could be a mistake. I read this study, and it looks to me like it's very speculative, very maybe. So I have no problem with exploring the financial feasibility of a parking garage, but I'm real concerned about right now with this motion asking Mr. Jones to go talk to the county and suggesting that we're asking them for money when we're not even committing money. That's all I've got.
Are you talking to the county commissioner, or are you just talking to the property appraiser?
In full disclosure, we have met with county. Initial discussion, all know how initial discussion, favorable. Conversation was get the CRA on board, get the developer on board, and come back and talk to me. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place in that I got to get the CRA, I got to have a motion, take this to the next level. We've got to discuss the financial side of the equation, and I think we can hold off on talking at the council level until the financial side of the equation is buttoned down. But I certainly would like, John, I think this is a different direction, to talk to the property appraisers, because part of the financial side of the equation is to run a financial model on the turn, run a financial model on how much additional revenue is coming in because of different scenarios and different rent structures and different development opportunities, not only in Oviedo and the park, but around. Bottom line, good development spurs other development. Dave can attest to that. It's when 2 restaurants come, 10 come. So I'm not advocating the fact that we go sit down and immediately meet with the powers that be at Orange at Semple County. I think we need to get our ducks in a row. There needs to be a firm commitment from the CRA and the developer. Then we make the presentation to the county and see what they say. I think John just wants to go to the property appraiser's office, get the financial side of the equation, run the analysis, the whole nine. You can do that.
If that's all you're asking, I don't think that's a problem. But if you're asking for more than that and going to county commissioners and pushing it forward even more, I think that's where the issue is.
Can I ask why? Why is there no vision ever in this city?
I've seen a parking garage there.
There's
in my
never
brain.
any vision. You know what, guys? 20, 30 years ago, there was no vision, and we got roads that are just jam-clogged. Why is everybody so afraid to do something around here? It's frustrating.
Can I just add on to that? I was going to hopefully get to the question, but I will agree with you. But you guys got to remember, this, Oviedo on the Park, these voters voted for this back in 2003, correct? This is now 2017, and we are all going to we are all getting asked, when's it going to be done? And there are a lot of worthy projects that will be funded from this. This thing is going for a long time. There's going to be, $30 million when it's all done? There's going to be plenty of time, but you've got to take care of, you got to pay the mortgage first before you have the niceties. And the mortgage right now is you have to park people there. We want those restaurants. We want all those social things that Tom spoke about. So even if they ask the county commissioners for some money, what can they say? No. It's not a big deal. They're in it with us for 20 years. It's a 30-year CRA, correct, John? So they're in it with us. They only committed for 20 years. They're going to pay us. So why can't we ask them? It's not a big deal. We need parking there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and it needs to be the first thing we do, in my view.
Couldn't
So
agree with you more, and catalyst for a funding source.
Conversation sounds like we're voting to fund this thing. Go let them do his.
they're just asking questions.
Go do it.
It's not a big deal.
I don't know why it's even here.
I'll reiterate the fact, and keep an open mind, because I don't want to waste the resources of the CRA. I don't want to waste John, my money, my staff, if your mind's already made up and said, I'm not going to vote for parking
Is
garage
this
no
costing
matter
us
what
money to the CRA to have him go do that?
No, Thompson's paying for it.
I'm not here to waste your money, and I have an open mind on it. I just want to see the numbers. There's nothing here, and that's what I'm saying. I'm like, go get the numbers.
Because at the end of the day, I may not even be able to
Does
afford it.
anyone up here not expect eventually to have a parking garage out there?
No, I mean,
sometime in the future?
my other question is why didn't this come up before we paved the surface lot that the public lot that we did?
Well,
We had a grant for that.
it did. It's part of the master plan.
And it has strong enough underneath stuff to...
Yeah, we had a
to go
grant.
back.
And you needed parking now, and who knows if this is a year-long project or a 5-year-long project.
Yeah, but-
You needed that parking.
And then the surface lot also was, that was grant dollars, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually,
It sounds like I may have consensus for everything, so
Yes.
let's,
Okay.
let me call.
You're good.
Let me just go up and down. Keith, you good?
Yeah.
All right. Steve?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. Go ahead, John. Go forth and put numbers together. You have no commitment that we're spending money. You have a commitment to bring us back a whole bunch of stuff to get us there. And Tom, you're in it now for 80% after that already.
He has the commitment to spend my money.
There you go. As long as it's your money, I'm good with it.
And John, while you're looking at it, find out how long it's going to be before we have self-driving cars that'll drop the people off and then go park out in the field somewhere.
All right.
They do. It's called Uber.
It's called Uber.
Okay, great. All righty, we have upcoming meetings. We've got March 6th, as was just announced. These are all at 5:30. We have March 6th, May 1, July 17, September 18, November 20, all of 2017. They're all at 5:30 p.m. Is there anything else with the good of the order? John? No, sir. Board members?
Good.
David? You got something?
Could we have a mechanism for putting things on future agendas as opposed to our consultant gives us a list?
Yes, sir.
All right.
There you go. Brian, anything for the good of the order over there?
No,
Mr.
sir.
Groot?
No, sir.
No? Chief White, just because I'm asking everybody? All right. All righty, with that being said, we're adjourned.